Hi, Mantic59 here, and you're listening to Moustache and Blade.
Welcome to the Mustache and Blade podcast, a show dedicated to all things facial fur and traditional wet shaving in an effort to create global facial awareness. And now, here are your hosts, Douglas Smythe and Ryan Stephen Green.
And yes, indeed, this is, in fact, Douglas Smythe from HowToGrowMustache.com and
Ryan Stephen Green.
Today's show is brought to you by Synergy Shaving Soap, which can be found at HowToGrowMustacheStore.com. Welcome back to another fabulous episode of Mustache and Blade, folks. I'd just like to say if you have any questions concerning mustaches or wet shaving, you can reach us at 347-333-1511. That's in the United States, 347-33-1511. If you are calling outside of the United States, simply dial 001-347-333-1511. You can also reach us via email. I am Douglas at mustacheandblade.com, and he is Ryan at mustacheandblade.com. And that's A-N-D. If you are sitting at your computer right now, I beg of you, please go to mustacheandblade.com, which will bring you to a pre-populated tweet, and just get the word out for us that you are listening to your new favorite podcast, Mustache and Blade. So do the right thing, folks. And for our listeners in the United States, happy Thanksgiving, or Turkey Day, as some of us may say. For our followers in Albania and Panama, happy Independence Day. In Burundi and Chad, happy Republic Day. In Poland, happy National Day. And let's not forget St. Andrew's Day in Scotland. Happy holidays, folks. Well, now I'd just like to welcome to our last interview of the month of Movember. And we couldn't find a more fitting interviewee than the mustache superstar, Grand Wizard of the Graspable Appendage, Editor-at-Large and resident bounder of Chap Magazine, and champion chap himself, Mr. Michael Atters Attree.
This is a man who defies explanation, but is guaranteed to be a hoot and a holler.
Atters has truly done it all, and to try to sum it up in a few words would be a serious injustice to the man, and to you, our dear listener. Furthermore, we are sure, like us, you are simply dying to wade knee-deep and relish your way through the rather whimsical words that are surely to follow. So by all means, shed your hope at the door, roll up your pant legs, and let's enter into the unparalleled universe of the irrepressible Michael Atters Attree.
Tally-ho!
Okay, welcome aboard, Atters. How are you doing today?
I'm doing marvelous.
Excellent.
That's my full vocabulary. Marvelous.
Yes. I can get behind that.
Excellent. I'm saluting.
And Ryan's with us also from Cali.
Yes, hello, Ryan.
It's 8 a.m. in Los Angeles, and it's cold today. My world, it feels like it's turned upside down right now. So.
Oh, it's cold. What's the temperature out there?
Oh, probably 67.
Yeah, no, no sympathy.
I know, right?
I chop up furniture and set fire to it. That
sounds like fun.
I'm not joking. So that's one way around it, you know.
Improvise, Ryan, if you have to. It's really great to have you on the show today, Atters. Like it's Movember now, so it seems only fitting that you're with us.
Well, I don't know about that. You see, I have my moustache all year round, don't I? So I'm a sort of fair weather moustache wearer in that respect. It's a bit ironic, isn't it?
We all are in this situation, you know. Everyone, we keep getting the Movember. Hey, it's Movember, and it's like, yeah.
It's at this point of the year that I feel a phony. Funny, isn't it? Actually, I don't know. Phony may resurrect its head quite often, actually. You know.
Go with it if it works for you. Did you end up making it to the World and Beard Mustache Championships this year, Atters?
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No. Do you know, there's a little bit of a reason, because I do get quite involved with these things. Last year, I was comparing the British Beard Moustache Championships, and I did chair the world one when it came to Britain. Mm-hmm. And I do write about moustaches quite a lot. And yesterday I had to do something for the Evening No Standard, I say. It's a newspaper in Britain. Yeah. And so I do sort of slightly overdose on the moustache sometimes, that the idea of seeing a load of sweaty men with moustaches just didn't warrant enough to put my hands in my pocket and pay for the flight. But as you know, there was some company trying to raise some money for me.
Yes.
And they failed miserably. And so I didn't make it there on that one. Otherwise, I certainly would have gone, you know. I said I wanted to be paid and have a nice hotel. I mean, who would turn that down? But no, I didn't. But I had a few nice sort of messages saying I was dearly missed, so that was sweet. But no, I didn't make it. No, I had other things to curl my moustache, I have to say.
Just had these visions of you locking horns with the Germans or stashes.
Yes. I think I'd have probably been, I don't know, putting bleach on the tips of theirs or something like that.
Yeah. No,
some caddish activity, you know?
That happened to you, though. Didn't they play that joke on you one time?
Well, no, I think that was more paranoia. They gave me a tube of moustache wax, and one of them just had a slight sort of strange twinkle in his eye, and I was thinking of sending it off to a few lab technicians, you know? But no, I don't think there was any bleach. Little bit wary of them.
And so you should be, I mean.
Well, you know, there's a little bit of history.
Yeah. It's just a little. Like a little mustache.
Yes. Bravo.
Sorry, that will be edited.
Yeah. No, leave it in. Damn. What the hell? He started it.
Ryan, this takes us full circle to where we were a couple weeks ago. But talking about mustache wax adders, now what's this I hear about Atters Alchemy?
Yes. Well, a number of years ago, I thought of producing a moustache wax of that name. You know, there's corporate two egos of mine. That's the paranormal, which I'm very fond of, and myself. So I thought, well, what can one come up with for a name? And Atters, naturally, and then alchemy. Nice, mystical word.
Yeah.
But I never got round to it. So Gustav Temple, the editor of the Chap, nicked it, the bugger. And said, okay, Atters, let's do this one, and I'll take all the money, and we'll use your photograph on the cover and your idea. And I helped him produce it. Well, I practically, I came out, I said, it's got to be musky. It's got to be sexy and musky, rather like me. I don't know about the sexy bit. I'm very musky, apparently. The way people really move away from me on the underground, But But so yes, I'm imagining I am going to be getting some sort of remuneration from this. A percentage, yes. That's otherwise there'll be bloody war. But, yes, it's a very good moustache wax, but I'm sure it's no better than your own.
Well, I don't know. I mean, tell me, does it bear any resemblance to your grandfather's mustache wax that you told me about one time ago?
None whatsoever.
I wouldn't imagine. Legally, I don't know if you can get away with that.
Yeah, you see, that's just it. I don't think we'd get away with producing that stuff. They really would. I mean, it looks good while it's on, but I'd imagine, the moustache has to be made of iron wool to survive the raw turpentine, etc.
Yeah, don't smoke a cigarette too close to that.
No, indeed. That's why I use a cigarette holder. See, in fact, you set me off. I think I'll have another one now.
I do that.
But yes, so this stuff's very stiff indeed, because I always find I don't like a sort of a Vaseline type that just makes the ends pring and prong away after a half an hour. You know that one, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Bloody awful. I mean, we've got those ladies to think of, haven't we?
Always, always.
Always. Quite right. So, and also, as I say, the nice musky smell, but not too overpowering, because obviously you don't want to interfere with your expensive perfumes that one would be wearing.
Not at all.
No. So it's rather nice, and that's as much as I can say. Really, it's available, via the Chap website and probably some posh shops in London. But we don't want to plug my tash wax when I believe you're involved. You've got a friend that's involved with moustache wax, haven't you? Or?
I do. I have my friends over at Pedal Push Your Fancies.
That's the one, yes. Which I reviewed very positively. I hope.
Since then, however, I also have come up with my own mustache wax, tash wax.
Oh my!
Yeah. It's similar. It's very similar. I use both.
What? On each Purlius.
Exactly.
Yes?
Only to be fair, I mean.
Exactly.
But it's very similar. It's organic. It's all natural. No, I stay away from the Vaseline stuff myself.
Quite right.
It doesn't hold up in water either. I mean, if it rains, I'm doomed. It's just a droop. It becomes a Smythe song.
Well, I must admit, you were very generous. You gave me quite a collection of various things, and there are all these different ladies absolutely fighting for all of these artifacts.
Really?
They're working. They work very well on them as well. There was some sort of lip balm or something. Mm-hmm. They love it. No, they really do. It's the natural stuff they like.
It's funny. They're using mustache wax now for eyebrows and eyelashes too.
That's a tip for me. I'll remember that.
Yeah.
Now I know where to rub that moustache. I've been rubbing it in the wrong place, obviously.
So that's coming along quite nice. I mean, it's Movember, so it's really humorous. This is a time for most mustache wax orders. But these guys are only growing a mustache for a month, but they're already going out there and they're getting the wax. And the thing is, if they're participating in Movember, that ends December 1st. They're supposed to kill the mustache. They don't even have a chance to use the wax, but they all have it in their back pocket,
Yep, they don't even have a chance to use the bloody moustache either, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have a chance to sort of woo outside of their direct circle.
No.
And but having said that, and funny enough, I was mentioning this in this whatever yesterday. I was writing for this whatever, I can't remember who they are again now. Anyway, and exactly that. They were asking, well, how do you see Movember reacting all year round? Well, I think a lot of the young bucks end up keeping their moustache all year round, but there's a sort of conveyor belt of new chaps coming along who want to raise money. So it's not going to reflect on raising this cash. But I think there's a lot of chaps that end up saying, no, sod you, I'm keeping this to their lady friends, and all power to them. I say, marvelous.
God bless them.
Yeah, God bless them. And all who they sail on. Ryan, tell me some exciting pearls of wisdom about your lovely smasher there. That's
my lovely smasher, my lovely cracker, my lovely smasher.
Yes.
Some pearls of wisdom. I doubt I have a single pearl of wisdom I could drop that you haven't heard before about this lovely smasher.
And some Devil Douglas. Don't you think this Ryan fellow? You know what?
That's why I keep him around.
Yeah, bloody, you've got to hide. Put a bag on that head when you're going out. Bloody hell.
I've got a face for radio, as they say.
Oh, I've got lungs for radio.
I am wondering, though, I mean, one of the things that kind of attracted me to my lovely smasher and why I grew it in the first place was it seemed like the prestige of the mustache had fallen. Its stock had fallen in the United States.
Oh, dear.
It seemed to me that it was, it seemed like it was, truckers or sex offenders or hillbillies, that sort of thing. I wonder, there's this negative connotation, I was wondering in the UK, what sort of parallel is there? What sort of, associations are made with the mustache?
Owing to our hard work here at this magazine called The Chap, the moustache is it's a favourable flag, a lip flag of respectability. Well, that's the plan anyway, and then you can sort of clandestine get in there in a sort of caddish way, I hope. Anyway, that's my plan. But generally, the moustache is looked upon as a bit of a gentleman's accoutrement over here, I think. But then again, it's been a bit of a tradition. Well, it's been a bit of a tradition in America, hasn't it? But more, I would imagine, for pulling guns out of a holster and, I don't know.
Showdowns at high noon and
yes, whatnot. Very sexy, all of that. It's marvelous.
I have one at noon myself, actually, I have to attend to soon.
Well, you have a holster?
I have a showdown.
Oh, really?
We do them every day. Yeah.
Good God, man.
It's a tradition that survives to this day.
That's fantastic. Very impressed.
Well, Yes,
but no, in Britain, there is obviously the same as there is out there generally in the Western world, where one looks upon the moustache as being a bit cheesy, a bit sort of disco 70s and all that sort of thing. So, but that's obviously the retro element now is very de rigueur anyway with certain vulgar types. But yes, the moustache is looked upon now where you'll get all sorts of types. Tattooed types, I have nothing against those at all. They're allowed to live. In fact, I think I compared a big award event the other day. Good God, that blew my mind. That was very all these bottoms in the air being tattooed. No one had any dignity, but they had moustaches. So that was good.
It's forgivable.
So yes, generally people are holding themselves in a positive way, I think, and sort of opening doors and sort of pretending to be gentlemen, and then they sort of pick their bottom or something really terrible. They let themselves down, but still, it's a start. Next.
Well, that being said, Atters, maybe you could help out your North American cousins over here and explain to us what does describe or define rather chap for us.
Well, you see, there are two definitions. There's a sort of definition where people who want to be chaps define what a chap is, and they may be chaps. It's not for me to say what a chap is, really. They will say what they think a chap is. Now, it can be a bit fair weather, though. Fair weather in the sense that they'll say, oh, I'm a chap, and they'll think by sticking a pipe in some orifice and, I don't know, saying, what-oh, pip, pip, tally ho, it makes them a chap. But really, it's something I think you've always believed and felt in your heart, and that's a sort of. It can be quite negative sometimes. It's a very much a backward-looking sort of, but to the past, to the glory days, to the halcyon days when it never was glorious. Really, I'm sure it's always been as depressing, depending who you are, if you've got money or not, or whatever. But I think a chap, it really is. It's someone that's got, for me, it's someone that has an edge of rebellion. Likes to go against the grain, but with style, hopefully. Now, we all say we'll have style, so again, it's not up for me to say what is stylish and what isn't. But I know in my world, I live in a bubble, and I'd say I am the best chap ever in my bubble, And so a chap's someone that just loves the Britishness, or in America, a chap would be someone who loves the traditions and the atmospheres of their core world, of what's made their nation great. Without being sort of xenophobic or necessarily over-patriotic. I mean, patriotism is a little bit dull, really. But I find that element's quite fun. So, I mean, I love the royal family on a hilarity level. But, I mean, if you think about it, a family that hasn't been elected, that sort of is able to stop the traffic in the middle of London and make me late for an appointment with a lady, I mean, it rather annoys me, I have to say. So, but they're great. They're great fun. I mean, they're very funny. But there are elements that are very strange. It's fascism. But that's a bit of a student comment, that perhaps.
The thing you've got going for you in the UK is you have a much deeper tradition from whence to draw than we do here. We're a very young country, and so when you say the tradition, for a chap to be in America, it's like, what traditions do we have? To draw on. I mean, there is the gunslinging, there is the, high noon shootouts, that sort of thing, but that would be very conducive to the longevity of our country if that were carried on to a...
Yes, but again, you said it yourself, that we are cousins of sorts, so you have every right with your lineage to be able to draw upon Great Britain. Well, great with a... whatever, but from Great Britain and from other nations, have you not? So, I mean, in a way, your larder's full. You have much to draw upon, surely. You could even, I don't know if the Hopi Indians were very great on facial hair. I think they did play around a bit, didn't they? I mean, look at those totem poles. My God, you've got a whole canvas there to copy. So,
wow, I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
You're blowing my mind right now. You're absolutely right. This is what makes America great, right? The great melting pot. We have all these traditions to draw upon.
It's the melting pot that didn't melt, and that's what makes it great.
Exactly. When you have a melting pot, it's all one big pooey beige. So at least you've got a marvelous sort of strength of passion there in different areas. I think we're in danger of just becoming a little bit of a limp, politically correct nation where no one really knows where and what and how to be and react, and whether being a gentleman is allowed or not, or whatever. I'm sure there'll be some sort of polite war of sorts, and we'll find our feet eventually. I'm sure.
No,
frankly, I don't give a flying fig.
As a chap. As somebody who rubs against the grain of the trends of society,
nicely put.
What do you make of this whole wave of political correctness? I take it that it's sweeping your nation as well.
Of course, it's well, again, you ask what do I make of it? Unfortunately, so I'm a bit of a hippie at heart, and I think that one probably does have to go through all these strange, muddy, weird waters before one will get to perhaps another glorious, glowing, interdimensional world where we can levitate and love and be all sort of, I don't know, hypersensitive and aware and things. I don't know. And there'll be no wars and free love again, which I read about in some hippie 60s magazine. God, that's a
And people act like it never happened.
Didn't. I asked my parents. I mean, they watched something go on in Africa, I think. It involved some car keys and a blanket, but I don't know if they got involved. Perhaps I'm a product of that. I don't know. But yes, I don't think. I asking about this political correctness. It's on a short-term level. It's rather depressing. I think there seems to be a dictatorship with the governments in the world, the governments of the world, where we are being dumbed down with rubbish on the news, on television, the programs, everything. And people are sort of just being spoon-fed this honey. That's not honey, actually. It's just raw sugar. There's no goodness in it whatsoever. Our brains are just sort of frying in this sort of mush. And people just don't seem to have the hirsute balls to decide and think for themselves. And even if I prefer a complete bastard, a political swine, to say what he thinks openly, I think that's admirable, be it not politically correct, because then there's an arena for debate. But when you have some sort of livid liberal who says, oh, no, I think this is terrible, such and such, saying this or doing that, and then they're sort of underhandedly passing papers along or whatever to try and get certain, I don't know, things done in the country. There's hypocrisy as well, which is rather annoying. So, as I say, I think political correctness is a bit of a dangerous darkness where you can't actually see what's going on exactly. It's just all there's a lack of communication, true communication, and passion is communication, and saying what you think is communication, and even going against the grain is communication, because at least people can work around that. You can't work around something you can't see, where people are saying things they don't mean.
Is well said.
Are there politically correct or incorrect mustaches?
Well, I don't know. I imagine there might be. Let's have a think. I mean, I imagine if one wants to sort of walk around with a Charlie Chaplin, people might be very cross. They might say his humor was rubbish.
That's what we were talking about quite recently, about bringing that back just to see what would happen.
Exactly. People be going mental over that. That it's quite funny. I mean, if you think about it, not a lot of people actually call themselves Adolf these days either, do they? As opposed to the actual moustache itself. Yeah. So, but yeah, as opposed to, is there not a politically correct moustache, or is there an unpolitically correct? I can't even say all that. But
is there a normal? I think that's how you say it. Is there a regular mustache as opposed to a politically correct one?
I don't know, but if you find out what that moustache is, let me know, and I'm going to bloody grow it. I think.
I don't know if your face would allow that, Atters.
I'll give it a go.
The people's mustache.
The people's moustache. Marvelous. David Icke started this channel called The People's Channel.
Oh, does he have a channel now?
Yes. It should be called the David Icke channel, really, I think. It's just
right.
It's all him, isn't it, really? But barking mad. But love his messages. Very good. I mean, his sentiments sort of, generally is quite good. But anyway, yes, lack of facial hair in his domain, though.
If you want to they're not politically correct mustaches. That's why you'll never see an North American president, I mean, with a stash.
Exactly, same in this country, and equally beards aren't sort of generally. I mean, obviously they're more favourable than the moustache, but I mean, there was a big thing on the news recently saying never trust if you're a political party and you have an up-and-coming member with a moustache, don't trust him because throughout history they've always been obviously dictators, and so it's a bit obvious that. But I think people are just frightened more and more as the months and seconds go by to stand out remotely. I mean, I don't particularly think I stand out that much because if I was back in the 1900s, I'd be 10 a penny like everyone else. So I'm fully aware of that. And also there are plenty of buggers like me now going to the chap. I mean, I might actually have to wear a hoodie or something. So
you are historically out of context, which is quite a feat to pull off. I try to be eccentric on a budget myself, so it doesn't pan out as well, but you're pulling it off.
I understand that one too well. Yes. What you do, Douglas, there is get people to give you a
sponsor. I need a sponsor.
Yes, you tell them you're going to show off their threads to a favorable light
on our podcast.
No, the blog, however, on the site I could do reviews of suits.
Seriously,
give me some names, Atters, and I'm on it.
I'll pass them on to you. Just harass the whole of Savile Row. That's all you do.
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. Did Abercrombie and Fitch ever make their way over there? They did.
Yes. So hallelujah.
Made for children by children. Abercrombie and Fitch.
That's brilliant. I like that. I don't know.
Use it.
Read that was rather good. Marvelous. Well, no, they're there, and it's a bit of a shame. I was actually there the other day. There was a launch of some book called "We Are Dandy" or "They Are Dandy" or something, and I'm in this book. And there's an excellent launch at Jeeves and Hawkes. and free champagne galore. Hardly remember the evening. But as I was walking along towards Jeeves and Hawkes, which is, I believe, owned by China now, I think, or Japan or somewhere foreign. So it's not even British anymore. But whatever. So I was walking along, and there were these marvelous. There was a chap, a street sweeper there, fantastic black chap that had this. I think it was a bowler hat on. He was the coolest dude, I have to say, I have seen for a long time. I love this chap. I was walking along, he just said, "Yo, you're cooking!" And he was sort of like, really, he looked better than anyone in this launch for this book. And they were there strutting around like I was, thinking we were it, with their bloody ridiculous cockerel feathers sticking out their arse. And this chap was the real McCoy. Marvellous. And all the security guards looked really good along there. It's really unusual, actually, the way they just had their own thing going. They really were on in their own world, I think, of originality. But you had to be there to see it.
As always. When did that happen, the protest?
That was last year, probably now. It must have been, I think, yes, it would have been, I don't know, probably July, August of last year.
The best dressed protests of all time.
Yes, we did look rather good, I think. Caused a few heads to turn, I suppose, but it made a lot of impact in the press, so that was good.
Yes, exactly. Ryan, do you know what we're talking about?
I don't know. The best dressed protest.
Atters, do you want to give Ryan and I guess the listening audience a little breakdown on what we're talking about?
Okay, this hideous shop.
Abercrombie and Fitch, I've never heard of it.
No, good. Should we just leave it there where he doesn't? We don't want to promote the fuckers. But basically, there's a mass-produced, there's a shop that's popped up in Harley Street, in Savile Row, that produces clothes that are really hideous, in my opinion. They're sold by people that are topless, not women, men, showing off their muscles. Now, that does nothing for me. I'm not going to go there to look at that. Oh, bloody hell. And they play loud music. Now, I'm sure it's great. I'm being an old fud on purpose, but really, that's a very traditional street. And once you start letting Starbucks and the likes of this place in or whatever, it's yet another area that's just going to be a generic mess. So I'm saying that let them do their stuff on Oxford Street, but keep off our traditions, I say. So it's going to be backhanders from the mass corporations in some sort of respect, because these places are protected generally, and this is like the first brick of the downfall of Savile Row, I'd say.
How about this? So I'm sure that it happens pretty often that somebody will walk up to you on the street and say, "Oh my goodness, smashing, grand, great," whatever their compliment is. What does it take for you to compliment somebody you see on the street, like this black man with the bowler you said? Like what sticks out to you? What makes you go, "Jolly good," or
yes,
I respect you. I see what you're doing and I respect it.
Well, this ties in with the question earlier about what makes a chap, and what makes a chap that I would react to, and it doesn't have to be a chap, it can just be anyone. It's, again, where there's an honesty to what they're doing. So no matter what it is, if it's aesthetically gorgeous and delicious and marvelous, and it's genuine, and that they've really thought this through in a creative and fun way or whatever way, and you can see that it has longevity within their soul. It's something that's developed through all their life experiences, and it's not something they've thought, "Oh, I think I need a new image," and they've sort of looked at some magazine the day before, and they've gone from a goth or a Lolita goth to whatever it may be. Then I think that would impress me, but it would have to impress me with things that impress me. I like there's a horror films made by a company called Amicus. It's similar to Hammer horror but far better, and they imbue marvelous atmospheres, and they have a sort of antiquity to them and a mysticism to them. Now, if I see some dress that imbues something like that in some little way, and there's a quality, and there's a lavishness, and there's an originality, I would be, and it carries on through into their face, even right down to their actual bone structures, where you can almost see there's a sort of history within their soul of being interested and interesting. well, those people I would be impressed by. But I couldn't actually say, oh, it's a bowler hat with a lesser spotted pelk's feather in it or something. Just doesn't work like that for me. It's something it's a combination of many factors that will make me react. But I'm terrible, Lech. I'll generally be looking at congratulating the ladies on how they dress, because they do tend to dress a lot better than chaps in general.
Sure.
They're better to look at. But they
gentler on the eyes.
I can't imagine some of the reactions of folks who you have complimented on the street. There is this man coming through history, a chap through history has descended through time to compliment me here in the year 2013 on the street. I imagine you must flip some lids when you do that.
What, when I actually compliment other people?
Oh yeah. Well, I would imagine you probably flip some lids just for people to see you walking on the street.
Oh, I see. Well, I must admit, when I was driving along. I was in California. I was driving with a chum from California up to, what all the tourists do, up to San Francisco. The big whatever, big surf or something, or the big something or other. A bloody psychotic road. Anyway, very dangerous. I nearly died many times.
Oh, but anyway, Highway 1 you're talking about.
Possibly. But anyway, I was driving around all sorts of unusual, rather probably quite dangerous areas, actually, in California as well. Just sort of doing let's have a look at this area and that. But as we were shooting along in one of these rented cars, it had the open top. So I had a cravat flapping in the wind and all the rest of it. And the tash was looking pretty good. I remember my chum he couldn't believe the reactions, because there's a bunch of black chaps that just, as I shot by, one just went, what the? And I was just getting a lot of compliments. What a wonderful. Obviously I was hamming it up like hell. And I was strutting around the area. But yes, I certainly did seem to blow the minds of a lot of Americans, which really surprised me just how much they did react. In England, yes, again, tourists will be very impressed, but the Brits themselves, it shocks me just how much of a fuss I will get, because sometimes I'm actually not really in the mood for it, but I'm still dressed in whatever way. And so it's quite nice, but it's very rarely negative. Very rarely. I mean, I loved the time some chap said, mate, come here. And he went, you look great. And so, but I could see we had an evil glint, but I sort of smiled and said, thank you. He went, not really, you look like a C-U-N-T. And I thought, good for you. Anyway.
What is the difference between a chap and a chum?
A chap and a chum.
A chum. You said you're chum out here in California.
Friends.
Well, a chum can be a chap, or it can be anything, really. A chum is just someone you like. For me, a chum, funny enough, this fellow, he edits the Nick Broomfield films. He's a film director fellow, and he's all very sort of media and very, hey, yeah, man, I'm cool, and LA and all.
I don't know any of those types.
Yeah, but they're all in England. They're all British. They're all what they think an American film directory, filmmaker type person should be. So he's an obnoxious prick in that respect. Dear old Butters. But I love the fellow. He's hysterical. I really laugh my head off with him. So he's quite good. Trouble is, he always gets in fights. That's the trouble. It's a bit dull, because his fights are really childish fights. If you're going to have a fight, make it worth fighting over something or other. But so yes, a chum, I don't care. A chum is someone that makes me laugh, that buys my drinks and says how wonderful I am. That's what a chum. And preferably have very good manners.
We call those girlfriends here in the United States.
You call them girlfriends, yeah?
They fit description.
Very good. Yes, all that do. I think over here they're not chums. They're more just sort of put up with.
Atters, I want to point out that Ryan is in LA right now, and he is a documentary filmmaker you're talking to.
Oh yes, marvelous.
Shh, Doug, things were going good here.
Ryan, you've blown my mind now. You see, I thought you'd be there all like, hey man, that's cool, with your shades, and all the rest of it. But that splendidly waxed moustache and a sort of rather polite haircut there, whatever. It's that's what a documentary filmmaker in my books should look like. Looks like you're taking your subject seriously.
Yeah, I'm kind of a serious guy, so You're warming me up here, though, Atters. This is good for me. I need more chaps like you in my life. I think when you do documentaries, things can get a little bit stuffy, a little bit serious quickly. So
they so can't they? Oh no, one always needs a little bit of light relief in a documentary.
Oh, yes.
I
Atters is also Atters does documentary film as well. I mean, you both are like two peas in a pod.
There you go. Many years ago, yes, I used to work in that area. But the ones I preferred were my own, of course, where you just get your camera and go off and do your own stuff. But if you were doing it for the BBC or whatever, they would all invariably always say, oh, yes, great idea. And then by the end of it, they've hacked out everything that was the whole point of the bloody thing.
The heart of it, the soul.
The difference between commercial work and your personal projects. This may be of interest, but I was at LACMA. LACMA is LA County Museum of Art. And they had an exhibit on Gustav Klimt. Everybody knows Gustav Klimt. Gustav Klimt right now is a very, very pop figure, The Kiss,
yes,
the Virgin, yes, all these things.
Yes, who could fail not to like that style?
They're absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. But what was the most the focus of this particular exhibit, though, was not his kind of masterworks that everybody's come to know and love. It was line drawings and commercial work that he had done. And the commercial work, no kidding, it was beautiful, obviously, but it looked like anybody else of his time could have done it. Just very classical, clean, like entrances to opera houses or museums or whatever. And it had nothing to do with his style. And it just hit me at that moment. I was like, Gustav Klimt had to do commercial work for, so that.
You've hit me here with that. I did not know this.
Yeah.
And I love that because, again, that in its own right, I mean, you can take this to all sorts of levels. Like there are lots of people that have never tried being a Formula One racing driver or riding horses or whatever, so that we could all be genius. We could all be brilliant at something that we just don't know about yet. But there are so many graphic artists out there that just so one-dimensional on the making money and just doing what will get them a job. And they may be lacking that that passion of I want to really be fantastic at something. They've never found out because they've left art school. I mean, I was at art school with a lot of these types that have gone on to do very, very well, and become quite, bloody famous, a lot of them, but only in a commercial way. And I would just think that I wonder, from what you've just said, if they'd actually just stuck to their absolute raw, bizarre, weird stuff that they were doing, what works of art they really could have come up with. Because, where would he have been if he'd just been focused and stayed in that mortgaged barrier, having to pay off his mortgage or whatever it may have been. And obviously the fellow had room to create those wonderments. And thank God.
Yeah. Thank God. No kidding. It would be a crime if he hadn't.
Exactly. Yeah. But there's a crime out there, as I say, where so many people haven't followed their ultimate passion. They've just stood back a bit and just been commercial. And I just wonder what they would have come up with. Do you see what I mean? There must be a loss of loss.
We've been stunted. It's stunted. It's about the whole dumbing down again and the fear, insecurity. Yes. I often think about the standard vision, in fact, like glasses that I wear, how different art was back in the day before everyone's vision was standardized. So everyone was seeing the world completely different. So, what I'm saying? The expression then is like,
yes.
But we've standardized that now. So imagine if we all took off our glasses and painted.
Absolutely.
The word passion, Atters, it seems like you have this down in spades. What is it that burns inside of you? What keeps you going? How have you made your life a living adjective? Noun. I'm not sure what goes there.
Yes. It's like a snowball, I suppose, where I'm very stubborn. So from a young age, I mean, I remember, for instance, I was working for Channel 4 years ago, and prior to that, I'd been doing nonsense, really, sort of youth TV, whatever, for the BBC. And I asked Channel 4, the head of documentaries there, if I could make a certain documentary. He said no. I took it to another production company who worked for Channel 4. They said brilliant and accepted it. And he didn't realize it was me, accepted it. And then when he found out I was making it, he did everything to stop me actually. I produced it, but I didn't direct the thing. because he put his foot down and said no. He hated me. And so later he was very polite and just said, Atters, not Atters, he called me Michael. There was no familiarity there. Michael, sort of, how are you getting on? And what have you been up to lately? And he put spanners in the works. So I said, well, I've been self-abusing, but I used the actual word. And to his face in front of everyone in this party. And it was sort of very childish, but it meant I would never work for Channel 4 for quite a few years again. And in that respect, I'm just saying I'm so stubborn that if I really feel I've been affronted by someone or someone does, I won't suck up to anyone. People may think, I'll sell out by doing something or other, but I know my own gauge of what I'm doing and what I'm about. That's all there is, and I don't give a tinker's cuss what anyone else thinks. And so what the snowball effect with me is, the more I stick to this, the more strongly I feel I am able and willing to this. So from a young age, if you start going down the wrong path, where you do sort of start having to kowtow and grovel and sort of sell out or whatever, then you've basically shot yourself in the foot, and it's quite hard to pull yourself back. Whereas I've always lived in a bubble. I've really sort of like wallowed on the floor, wailing, doing the arty thing, and I've sort of stuck to my guns, really. So what makes me passionate is being able to be passionate, because so many people aren't even able. They're too frightened to be passionate, because it means, again, going against some sort of grain. Passion is a volatile emotion, So you asked me what makes me passionate. Just being able to gorge and feast on anything that will charge my batteries. And that will be sex, a bit of alcohol, and beauty and countryside, and expressing things that people they're all thinking, but they don't want to say, and just saying it and laughing hysterically and laughing at people even sometimes. It's a bit cruel, but, yes. And trying not to take yourself too seriously is very important. So I'm very, so I'd say I'm quite passionate. Yes. Because you're alive. Jesus Christ, not for long.
Not for long.
What I love how you get, he's got a strong personality. When people say I have a strong personality, I've gotten this quite recently, and now I'm offended by that. But it's like, what do you mean a strong personality? I mean... That's a good thing, right? I mean,
they're saying they haven't got a personality.
Yeah, it sounds like yours is weak.
You're alive, I mean, that's just it. I can see that both of you are people 100. Again, I think we're sharing the same passionate space. I'd say there's no doubt. I mean, that's why we're here chatting. I would feel, and thank God for that. Again, marvelous. I raised my glass up. You raise your
salute.
Why don't we break this meeting up right now and go out there and live, damn it.
Excellent.
Drop it. See, I nearly pressed the off button.
Atters, what's your dream car?
Well, I do. I mean, it's such a cliche, but actually, it's not such a cliche. Not a lot of people come out with it. Sorry, I'll just answer this question. There's something called a Jensen Interceptor. I don't know if you know of this car. It was built around, I think, 1970. And I remember when I was very young, this lovely young lad, he was a friend for a very brief while, until his parents probably said I was too common or something to be friends with. But he's shot by in this massive Jensen Interceptor. And it's a cross between a sports car and a sort of, I don't know, a Bentley, really. And it had a lovely metallic blue, royal blue to it, and chrome, and it makes a noise like this. I can't do it, but my God, it was, when I heard that go by, I thought that's beautiful, with these lovely weird green tinted back windows or whatever. So all in all, it was just like, wow, it's like a rocket to something fantastic that went by when I saw that. And this spoilt brat behind me smiling at me, I really wanted to kill him. So a Jensen Interceptor is a car I've always wanted. They're very cheap. They leak oil everywhere. They cost a bomb to run, and there aren't very many of them that, frankly, are probably in a state to be on the road. But I'd like one. That's the answer to that. E-type Jaguars, though, they're beautiful. Those cliche types, the 60s Aston Martins, beautiful. Of course, just even a Morris Minor, frankly, or that's got a split screen and smells of leather. When I was young, my mother had these cars. She used to drive around. She hadn't passed a test, and there was I didn't believe there was even insurance or anything. This is outrageous, but we were right in the sticks, and she had to drop me off to school. And so I remember that she was cranking it up with this thing that you turn the handle, you turn around or whatever. Split screen Ford, I think they were 40s, Ford Prefect and an old Morris Minor. But they had this tiny window at the back that just let a tiny amount of light in the car. And it all smelled of leather and brass. And God, I loved that. I mean, that contributed to, I don't know, this chappish elements, perhaps. It's just this history and smell and the moss growing out the windows of this car. All that sort of thing. I love moss now. It might be from there.
No, that's a great answer. That was inspiring,
That's a
actually.
good answer. I love it.
One of my first cars was a black 69 VW Bug. And I didn't put any stickers on it. I wanted that Dobie Gillis. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. So I had this bohemian beatnik thing I was going for, and it looked just like Dobie Gillis's.
You surprise me. Yeah.
Everything in my life that has transpired thus far can probably be directly related back to that car.
See, yes, but that's what makes us the people we are. We all know this, but the wonderful thing is every single second we live is contributing, to create this golem that we become. And I love that. That's great.
But it can always be tweaked out along the way. I mean, right? I mean, that's what psychotherapy's for.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about all that. Half of those buggers need it themselves, don't they? And they've had it.
I've always just wanted to screw with them.
Well, yes. I think that's what one would really end up doing. I mean, I don't want to sound too conceited here. Heaven forbid. But I really do think that I would really have to find someone that really could play the sports because I do think I'd be running circles around some of these. You can see where I believe you can see what they're up to a bit, and you start to see their own little problems and phobias coming out in the questioning. This is only from what I've been hearing from people I know that have therapy, and there's a lot of those. So, no, I'd be very wary to have that. I need it, but I'd be wary of it.
That's why we started this podcast, actually, right?
Free
Doug,
therapy, and that's what we were going to call it originally. But then we figured Mustache and Blade, just another form of projection on our part.
Why make it free? Make some money out.
God.
Excellent. Oh, Ryan, you didn't answer what your dream car would be.
Oh.
I didn't ask, but I just thought.
Wow. I'm a fan of the vintage cars. I currently drive a '67 Volkswagen Squareback.
Squareback.
It's a station wagon.
A station. Oh yeah, bloody marvelous. Yes, they're quite rare, aren't they?
I wouldn't say they're rare, but they are. It's infrequent that you see them. They only made them for I think about 10 years or less. Yeah. So whereas like the VW Beetle is like for a long time was the most sold vehicle of all time. A Squareback is relatively unknown in comparison.
So we'll say rare.
Yes,
rare.
go on.
Sure, it's rare.
And also, I imagine you're very clever there, very shrewd move, because the Dollies really love a Volkswagen. So I think the van, they'd love that. And then I'm sure you probably take full advantage too, I would hope.
Well, I will say that my wife drove the car for a time. And I mean the uniqueness of the car. Oh, have we taken advantage in the back? I believe we have. Yes. How could you not? I mean, it's a Volkswagen, for crying out loud.
I was saying, while your wife was driving, were you taking advantage in the back? Sorry, Ryan. It's you can edit this nonsense out. Sorry, Ryan.
Why would we edit that? That was a brilliant moment. Moving on. My dream car. It's probably not a Volkswagen. I don't really know. I love Bentleys for some reason. Very classic lines. I like that kind of stuff. I'm not really into exotic cars. I like Porsches. I like Porsches from the 60s.
60s only.
Yeah, they're pretty much they look very similar throughout the ages, but the 60s ones are just like you'll see them from now and again. And out here in California, because the cars have remained rust free, there's a lot of classic cars around, Yes. And so the 60s Porsches, they're just so clean and so beautiful and just love them.
Well, you see, going back to sort of chap nonsense, where one asks, well, what defines a chap or something? Well, just about any chap that was alive in over 75 that sort of experienced and lived the world of that time and driven those cars, they tend to imbue this chap element, a lot of them. But equally, the was more modern Porsche compared to the 60s Porsche. God, this is so pedantic. But there's such a difference because there's the chrome and there's the quality and there's just the sound and there's just an overall just that extra je ne sais quoi and all that cliche, which is marvelous. Whereas the modern ones do tend to just be for people that want to sort of show that they have a very small penis. That's what I...
Yeah. What
compensation?
I wonder, like, where did we get away from the real materials? A gosh dang Volkswagen, which was the least expensive car of its time, is still made out of metal and rubber and like real things that you can taste and see and smell and feel. And these new modern cars are just made completely of plastic. They're pieces of junk. You know, they're not made to last. And I don't know why that is, you know?
You've summed up the whole of humanity there as well.
He does that every episode. He just sums up humanity.
That's beautiful. Because this is how I feel. When I was very young, you'd walk along the street and you'd see, and this is part of getting older for me, but you'd see people walking along and you'd see a world that is completely alien to you because you weren't alive in their world. Whereas now, I've been alive in many of the worlds of people I see. Now, that's a terrible thing to say because it's like saying I know their world. I don't. But when you're 16 and you see an old lady with a beehive hairstyle, you know, and those funny sort of Dame Edna Everage style rockets, I don't know, Skeletor glasses, you know, you just think, well, where did they crawl out from, or planet are they from? What, how? And it's fascinating. Whereas now I'll look at people and I'll see them in their sort of pilling-covered pink jogging outfit, all the same, and all wearing trainers, and there's just nothing to gauge anything by, really. And I feel that it's a plastic world that we're in. It's all disposable and overweight and over the hill and over.
It's sterile.
There's a saying out here in LA. You can be walking. It's not a saying, but it's a common kind of occurrence. Is you'll be walking on the sidewalk and walking in front of you is a member of the female gender, and she'll be wearing the stretchy pants or workout pants of some sort, and you can't tell from behind if she's 14 or 60.
Absolutely.
You actually have to see the face to know how old this person is. And that's problematic to me.
And embarrassing sometimes for me.
It's problematic because A, it's going to be bloody hard work to overtake them anyway. And B, it's not going to be worth it when you do anyway, is it really? It's a no-win scenario, that one.
We often we speak of such matters, Atters, on this, whoa.
Right.
Because we also cover wet shaving, traditional wet shaving, usually on the podcast as well.
Oh, yes.
Going to like double-edged safety razors, traditional razors that your grandfather or your father even used.
Yeah.
Just how they're things of beauty. They're more than that. It's form, it's function, it's weight of history in your hand. And so we often go on these tangents too, speaking of what happened.
Absolutely.
What happened? You know, what's up with the Fisher-Price plastic toys that all these tough guys are using now? And it's like...
I know. Absolutely. I haven't learned the art of actually being able to do the blade shave
the straight
myself. It's certainly a sophisticated art, that, and I would very much like to. I've attempted of sorts, but no, there was little of the face left when I had a go. It really was quite difficult. But of course, I've enjoyed many a wet shave at, in various establishments. But when I was much younger, again, around sort of, 18, 19, onwards for a while, I was able to pop to the most bizarre barber shops around London and these sort of cobbled back streets. I mean, they really were very Dickensian. It's marvelous. And, just for a couple of pounds, I think I used to be able to have these a wet shave. And I really, no one of a contemporary age that I knew of was sort of doing this sort of exploration I felt. I could hardly go back to college or wherever and just say, I had a lovely wet shave and chat away with people too much. They'd sort of give you a slight look as if you're a pervert, including the barbers. When I'd go in, they weren't really doing it that often themselves, but it would be on offer. So it was lovely to have these, not to go to some sort of celebrated establishment, which I have to go to now, again on German Street or in around Brighton. There are places that are famous and well known, and that's lovely, and they're all very clean and it's all very safe. Right. But to go to this rather edgy establishment where again there's the proverbial moss poking its way through the window, Very apt as well. They should put that blade towards the mosque. So it's beautiful because they've been there. When I was young, these chaps had been there, say, for 40 years, or even been in the family for 40, 50 years even. And the antiques surrounding these the lovely pots and pomades and all the rest of it. When I was 9, my father used to take me somewhere to have a basin cut, and they'd put a bowl over my head for I think it was 25 pence or something. They'd trim around my head. A bowl cut. There was this marvellous little village that my parents lived in, and I used to go to this barber's called Barber Bell, and it had a bell swinging very ominously. It used to just go, and it's really quiet. And it was a Victorian railway station that was disused, and it was the last building of the railway village, really, that was still functional. And all the rest of it was all falling down and hidden. You had to go around the back to explore it. There'd be all these antique bottles lying around, and everything. It was very, very wonderful as a child to play around there. But going back to the barber, he gave me this cut, and I remember he moaned and said, no one wants a wet shave anymore. They're all going to the trendy places, or whatever word he used. He wouldn't even know what trendy meant. And he was about 90. And then 2 weeks later, I was walking past, I sort of jumped past the place, and I saw his blue lights. I remember a Morris Minor police car outside and all that. And so I trotted along, opened the letterbox, and I could see his boots swinging, and a stool had been kicked over. And there's all this sawdust. And poor old Barber Bell had become the squeaking bell that was outside his shop, really. I mean, it was very poignant and sad, I have to say. But inside the shop, I felt very honoured that I'd been practically, I really would wager, the last chap who'd ever shaved. Not shaved, sorry. Not at 9. That's over-optimistic. Given a bowl, But you could see that they'd been doing, that shop hadn't changed, I really believe, since 1890 or something, because it had been in his family. And I feel very lucky that I've got a memory of this beautiful, beautiful shop with all the cut glass bottles inside and all the rest of it. Unfortunately, it was slightly sort of soiled by the fact that this bloke wasn't the happiest bunny in the world.
It's kind of poetic.
Yeah.
For whom the bell tolls.
Yeah, well, it certainly did on that occasion. Poor fellow. I mean, there are probably not many people left to remember that time and that man. But
is the shop still there? And it's a repurposed train station?
No, I actually did do that Google thing where you can see street view and everything. There's like an estate there now, and the whole railway station, even the track where the railway track was, that's all been filled in. They've got one building, the actual the main railway station has been turned into flats. So it's all stripped of atmosphere, but you'd never really be able to tell anything. There's modern shops all around it, and sort of Abercrombie and Fitch and all the rest of it. So
God
bastards.
But to be honest, time moves on. Jesus, that's what happens. We all know that.
What's the benefit though of looking back and partaking of these traditions, remembering these things and celebrating these things, knowing about these things? What's the benefit? Why is it important that we do this?
Yes, I don't know, Ryan. I'm sure you either do or don't too. In fact, I don't know if any of us do, except that when I look forward and just see the way things are lacking the fun and the I mean, I enjoy the ritual of a shave, because I'll have a wet shave still, but it'll just be with I do use an old
double edge
1900s blades I actually do use the nice old velvet leather case I open and all the rest of it, because it's fine. It's a wet shave. It's the best when you've got a moustache.
Exactly.
You have to have and I do own an electric razor as well, just to do the other bits when I'm in a rush. I mean, there's all sorts of ways. But to get in those nooks and crannies, you have to use a blade. So I'm just saying that I think that if you didn't have your moustache, which is looked upon as quite old-fashioned, then you would miss out on that ritual aspect. And then equally with the clothes, if you just shoved on some pilling pink piece of vulgarity and then trainers, well, you're missing out on the sound of the creak of your leather shoes on gravel, and you're missing out on the feel of different materials on your body, all sorts of different materials brushing over you. And then when you're cuddling a lady, they love that feel of the velvet and the feel of silk and the feel of braiding and the cashmere on their cheeks, and marvelous. They love that. They do. I mean, we do,
I
don't
love
we?
it.
So, yeah, of course, it's all of the past, isn't it? It's not looking sort of too futuristic. I mean, we're just going to be farted out in some sort of capsule one day, aren't we? I don't know, fed jelly
With an iPhone in our hand, yeah.
I mean, this is going back to me saying I want the world to one day just be this hippie thing that I don't quite understand in my mind. What I'm trying to say there is I think our brains are capable of quite a lot, but my God, what they should be capable of, they are not. And I'm sure if there is intelligence beyond our abilities out there that could visit this planet, well, just imagine how amazing that would be. I mean, you're even down to just vision. You wouldn't just be seeing the way we see. I mean, there are insects and other creatures on this planet we know that can see in profound ways that we can't. But we'd be able to see all sorts of heat levels and perhaps, just through thought, be able to see through objects itself. I don't know. And that's just through sight. For instance, when you're talking to someone that's trying to catch you out and be a bit tricky, you have to be clever, don't you? And you have to sort of play that chess and work a few moves ahead. Well, if you were, so profoundly advanced, you wouldn't be playing chess. You'd be playing some incredible bloody nuclear fusion game of chess, wouldn't you? You'd be able to sort of read so far in the future that it would get to a point that you would just be sitting there not thinking, because you wouldn't have to. You'd just be God. And that's the answer to what God is.
Yeah, I think it's multi-dimensions we're talking about.
Oh, well, and quite a few glasses of
Definitely. I'm not red-blooded. I'm not red-blooded. I'm red-wined. And that's religion. You covered a lot. The whole aesthetic aspect of the wet shave and then some. Bravo.
Atters, there are two expressions that we've heard from you today that I am going to make it my duty to impart here in Los Angeles. We've got hirsute balls, and we've got troughs of guano.
Yes, troughs.
I am going to make sure that these make it into the common vernacular here in Los Angeles.
I would be utterly, a British salute to you, sir. I'd be utterly delighted if at least if those two pearls of total worthlessness were to make it somehow. I would feel really honoured then. That'd be delightful, because that's the sort of thing we need, I think, don't you? Those things are important somehow. I don't know how.
Some excitement. Mix it up,
Yes.
Use some vocabulary here.
No, I agree. And it's so much easier now to spread these with with internet. I remember back in the day, 15 years ago, I tried to coin the phrase or just the word using it in, a slang word, touch. Like, hey, that's touch. And I would try to, use it everywhere. I'd use it in elevators just to try to get everyone, I really tried hard to get this out there, but it didn't catch on. Now, however, I create a list of, 55 slang words for the word mustache, and I was running low. I didn't actually have 55. So I started creating my own. And one was the bro meringue. The bro meringue. The bro meringue. The bro meringue.
The bro meringue.
And now they're using it. I've seen it in a couple places.
That is, I shake your hand, sir. That is absolutely.
It was a digital shake. It's a digital shake.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I really. By the way, you can both see I'm still absolutely in awe of this technology that I'm doing these childish things. You probably about 5, So, hey,
we could start this. This could be a thing, But the bromerang and what was it? The last episode we came up with instead of when you tweak the tips of your stash, masturbation.
That's my favorite so far.
You can use it.
Did you?
That's
that
mine.
yours?
Yeah, that was the last episode. Came up with that.
Right. I actually will steal that, and I'll
by all means. We're wordsmiths here.
If you don't mind, if I'm able to credit you, I shall. But if I don't, I'll just take the glory. But masturbation.
Yeah, take whatever comes attached to that one.
That's beautiful. And what was the other? The other one was touch, and then the other one was
bromerang. So bro like brother, bro like brother, bromerang.
I won't use that because that has a slightly sort of across the pond vibe to it. It's not
either.
I really like it. But
it's like during the month of November in Orange County. That's when that
bromerang.
That's when that phrase is used. Bromerang.
There was a couple others too, but that's one I've definitely seen in use.
Love that. They will love that. Absolutely.
Hey, Well, thank you so much, Atters. It's been great catching up with you as always, and it's been I can't really put it into words how or what you have done to us collectively, but I feel like a better person. I feel like I've learned a lot. I've grown in some way, shape, or form that is, again, difficult to describe to our listening audience. But if they could see me, they would immediately understand what you have done to us. Thank you, Atters.
It has been an honor indeed.
Bravo. Gentlemen, it's been an absolute profound honor to chat to two titanic hirsute bulls. And I meant that in the most beautiful sense. You know that.
Likewise, Atters.
And I have to say, I shall be continuing to listen to Moustache and Blade with fervor, absolute fervor. It's a joy, joy to the ears and to the subnasal quiver. So carry on the good work, chaps. And if anyone wants to listen to any more of my drivel or see what I get up to, they can always visit atters.com.
Excellent.
So, salutes from Blighty.
You have been listening to the Mustache and Blade podcast. Thanks for listening, and please leave us a review on iTunes. Almost clean shaven, but hardly clean cut. Mustache and Blade.